Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online, copiers-plus.com. Print management, document solutions, get things to the cloud. Kind of like RJ Davis was sending everything up into the cloud. Euphoric. 42 points last night in the Smith Center.
Smith Center record?
Yeah, so this is a...
I'm surprised Psycho T didn't have that. Didn't have one of those.
He did. It's the Smith Center record. It was originally set by Tyler Hansborough in 2006 with 40 points.
Against Klemp.
Yes, I think that was the case. It's the most points by a UNC player since Shammond Williams had 42 in 97-98, but that was double overtime, so 42 in regulation elevates it to a place that we haven't seen since Charlie freaking Scott in 1970 when he had 43 against Wake Forest
in regulation.
And then
game.
And then of course the all-time Kirsch Nug.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for the Nuggie?
Yeah.
An all-time Steve Kirschner Nugget. It's the first time a Tar Heel outscored his entire team 42-35. His own teammates.
Okay.
He was the only player in double digits last night for the Tar Heels. His entire team 42-35 since Michael Jordan in 1983, which is appropriate, Joe. Which is appropriate because every time we seem to talk about the Tar Heels and we throw a little love Wake's way, we throw a little love to Hunter Salas. What does RJ Davis do?
Why does that have to be construed as shade to RJ Davis?
Because that's the world we live in, man.
Okay.
Last night was hilarious because all I did last night.
You're the one who did something
this time.
Because all I did was praise them yesterday.
I know.
I even marked it down on the Twitters to say, for future reference, when you say, I never say nice things about you, this is the little asterisk.
So last night, all I tweeted out was looking at RJ Davis and how North Carolina's been kind of struggling here as of late, winning, but not looking like the fire breathers we saw back in January. Okay. And RJ Davis is coming off a 1-for-14 performance against Virginia. Won the game, but again, RJ's been, it was fine.
Okay.
And Hunter Salas has been that dude as of late. I simply floated out. I'm curious.
My D's.
When's the last time we had co-ACC Players of the Year? It's happened twice. Happened in 2000-2001 with Shane Battier and Joe Forte.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a true split.
Yeah.
A true split because of the way the voting was done back then. And then the second time was Shane Larkin. Did you know his dad played baseball?
I did not. Wow.
And Eric Green. Now, the reason why that was split is because Shane Larkin was the best player on the best team. The coaches liked that. He got the vote. The media absolutely loved that Eric Green was, I think, hitting 50 points a night. If I'm not mistaken.
He was going
crazy for Virginia Tech. So that was the
terrible
split. And then, of course, young Connor O'Neill reminding me, while Isaiah Wong was the ACC Player of the Year last year, it was Ty Appleby who had won the AP ACC Player of the Year. But, of course, that doesn't count because not even Steve Forbes referenced his own player when he was going after Joe Lunardi. That's all I said. It's like, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm like, it'd be interesting. What is it? Sometimes you go down these rabbit holes and you just kind of speak it out and you move on. Buddy, the way some Carolina fans reacted to that was like, I was saying that Hunter Salas would body RJ Davis one-on-one. I was just curious, but I did appreciate this tweet. RJ, whenever ONG start talking about how Salas is as good as him, I took it personally.
That's when I took it personally.
I was responding to one listener last night who said, I was like, dude, like all of us expected him to have a historic performance against Miami last night. Yes, because we all predicted that. Shout out to JP. I actually did, and I have the ticket to prove it. And he showed me the prop bet. RJ Davis of the Tar Heels will score 6 or more 3-point field goals against Miami.
That's nice.
So I said, you know what? Send me your address. I will send you a sticker.
He just won a bunch of money. We don't need to send him anything.
I'll send him a sticker and a t-shirt. I'll send him a sticker and a t-shirt. It doesn't cost us anything, man.
It does.
Well, money's already spent, so it's whatever. I'm not really all that worked up about it. But here's the wild part about this.
Hey, you want a ridiculous prop bet? Let us now double reward you.
So I'll admit, at 4:17, the last field goal for North Carolina, RJ Davis hit a 3.
You were like, okay.
They went up 70-57. I'm not working the game necessarily.
Right.
I'm like, I don't need to. It's just Miami. It's a Monday night game. There's nothing truly at stake. I'm like, I've seen enough. They're up 70-57 after RJ hits that 3. So I'm like, I'm out. I'm going to go beat the traffic because you know how it is on 54, man. If you don't get out in time, you're stuck.
Especially coming back this way.
Oh, by the way, that was the last field goal North Carolina would hit the rest of the way. They went 4 of 9 from the line, and it was 72-70 after Keyshawn George made a 3. But the difference here is that UNC had 5 rebounds to Miami's 2 rebounds down the stretch. As some people pointed out to me, very Oregon-esque 2017 Final Four.
Yeah, man, I understand what Miami's record is, but that's a good team.
It is.
I don't care what anybody says.
This is twice now that North Carolina struggled to get past the Hurricanes.
Now, listen, you're right. Double digits, you would like to see them put that thing in a different gear.
Yeah, man.
But I did. I thought there was a rule you only played one Saturday to Monday turnaround. It's a little bit different. Now, if you're North Carolina, you're probably going to get used to 1 day turnarounds because those are you want to do 4 of those in the or 3 of those in the NCAA tournament. So I think there was a little bit of that. Again, we talked about how winning at Virginia was really important to them. Didn't dislike the way that they played in this game. Sometimes you just have to respect your opponent instead of being like, oh man, Miami stinks. I can't believe they struggled against Miami. No, dude, it's all good, man. You have the best player. He played great. He carried you to a win. Move it along.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more conversation about who the ACC Player of the Year is going to be. It's going to be RJ Davis.
No.
Straight up. No. All right. It's not that complicated anymore. He clearly quieted any sort of level.
I see what the discourse is, though.
What's the discourse?
Cormac Ryan was 1 of 9, so we're back on the...
Well, okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Because there is an element of, let's strip away the fan reaction. Because I think North Carolina, like Candace Cooper, right? Our friend Candace Cooper, I forgot where she had put it. I think it was on Twitter where she said, I see this is how North Carolina is just going to be all year, stressing me out.
Yeah.
Fine. That's fine.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because they're not overwhelmingly talented.
Nobody is. Even Creighton, your boys.
Now, my Creighton guys are super skilled. They
are super skilled.
You want to talk about a soft team, though.
So the thing about North Carolina is we've hit the classic glass half empty, glass half full approach to talking about the Tar Heels. Are they a Final Four contender?
Yes.
The answer to that is yes. Unequivocally, yes. When you look at the whole of college basketball, and really there's only one team out there that you go, yeah, well, they're the odds-on favorite. That would be UConn. After that, I'm not really sure who it is that you just point to and go, yup, they're it.
Vegas would tell you Purdue. I don't trust them
because but they have every reason for you to trust Purdue.
Every number 1 seed who's lost to a 16 in the first round though has won the national championship the very next year. It's a rule. I didn't make it up.
The old Virginia, right? So when I look at North Carolina, I see glass half full because to your point, you're going to have these weird turnarounds. You're going to have to find different ways to win. Sometimes you're going to need somebody to completely take over and let the rebounding, which is a calling card for North Carolina, do the rest of the work. You stack and stack and stack the confidence to know that even in these tight situations, you're going to find yourself in a position to win the game. You go back to the Georgia Tech game, right? Very similar to the Georgia Tech game in that they missed free throws down the stretch, couldn't put it away, and it took Georgia Tech in a clutch bucket to make it work, and yet they still had a chance at the end of the game with RJ Davis, who has come up clutch multiple times. So I'm looking at this glass half full. I look at North Carolina's recent stretch as slog of a season, still finding ways to win, and the schedule is favorable down the line that they're going to lock this regular, the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament up probably by Saturday when they beat NC State.
I think the most important thing for North Carolina came out on Saturday when the committee said that they were a 2 seed.
Yeah.
I think what people forget is when they went to the championship game in Hubert's first year, they were on the 8 line. That was a tough freaking road. I know St. Pete beat Kentucky and cleared a little bit of a final hurdle there, but those games were, those were tough games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There were no gimmies other than St. Pete who ran out of everything. But you're on the 2 line now. You're guaranteed 1 RJ Davis game in the tournament. Mm-hmm. You're also guaranteed 1 Armando Bacot game in the tournament. So now you got to figure out a way to win 2 more to get to the Final Four.
And look, Carolina fans.
And one of them doesn't count. The first round, I'll knock on wood for them since I have the ticket. The first round they should skate through. So you're gonna have to win the final 8. Round of 8 game is going to be a coin toss. So you got to figure out a way to win the game.
We'll do you a favor. We'll do Carolina fans a favor.
Oh, you want us to keep questioning?
It's not even questioning. It's not about questioning Carolina.
No, you're right. All we did was praise Hunter Sallis.
That's all you have to do.
Instances.
That's all you have to do.
Nobody denigrated RJ Davis.
It's not about RJ Davis. It is not about the Tar Heels. It's simply you and I going, man, Wake's pretty good.
Hey,
Steve Forbes might be ACC Coach of the Year. What?
No, sir.
Absolutely not.
You will not besmirch my Tar Heels.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tweet out, I don't know, Saturday morning, right? When I'm drinking.
They need nothing on Saturday, sir.
Is it not a Saturday?
They need no.
Okay, well, fine. The Duke game. When they go to Cameron. When they go to Cameron. It's like,
that is the canary in the coal mine. The winner goes.
Steve Forbes has done a hell of a job, man. I even tweeted out, maybe he should just be ACC Coach of the Year for the way he's dunking on Joe Lenard. Yeah. How dare you?
It's not the criteria.
You're right. I know it's not the criteria, but I think we're going to come up with our own OG award criteria. I think we should do that. Housekeeping. Big thanks to Enovana for sponsoring Housekeeping. Check them out online, ENOVANA.com. I have not specifically pointed out to Enovana, hey, is there something you can do about me snacking while watching 9:00 basketball games and the crumbs that get in the couch? Is there like a special service for that? Maybe there is. I don't know. But here's the thing. Communication is key with Enovana. Their employees are their employees. It's not subcontractor on subcontractor on subcontractor. This is a company that will work directly with you. And when I say communication is key, it's key. When they came through last time, I was like, don't even bother with the kids' rooms because it's a disaster area that only they can handle. They're like, cool. However, can you do this? Absolutely. No problem. So that's what I love about Enovana. So check them out, ENOVANA.com. We've got another event coming up.
Rand is not the only person who can provide a jingle for us.
Who else
might be the payment today for Chip Patterson that he comes up with I could just hear the ENOVANANAS.
Maybe.
This cleaning service is bananas.
Maybe he does that for us. I don't know. 321.
321. Yeah, March 21st. It's Thursday. Well, are we doing a show during this?
Yes.
Have you not learned your lesson that I cannot function on the first day of the NCAA tournament?
Well, not only can you not...
Or am I going to have shorties too?
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm actually calculating too. Because look, in this...
Or is it we're okay with the spectacle now?
Well, so I'm glad you brought this up because this is what I struggle with. And maybe we can bring Chip Patterson in here in a second when we're done with our ads to talk about this. We don't have anybody like air checking us, right? We don't have a boss anymore.
No.
Nobody's telling us should have done it this way or whatever it is, which is fine.
Oh, can I tell you something? Were we still doing an ad for Enovana or did we handle them? Okay.
We took care of that. Yeah, we took care of that.
Okay.
But I still go back and I listen to the shows and self-air check.
Yeah, so do I.
And Thursdays, as we've done these live shows,
I don't listen to them.
I'll go back and listen to them on Thursdays. And I feel like Thursdays...
They get off the rails.
That's the thing. You got to lean into it.
Right.
So I have to get over my own mental hurdles.
I get distracted by the comments.
I know how I
do. It's like a squirrel.
Sometimes I wonder if the listeners enjoy the train wreck of your distraction while I get annoyed at them.
I hope so.
And I have to get over my annoyance at you not being focused and just lean in to the ridiculousness of it all.
But you now add the layer of the perfect bracket
along
on top
with
of that.
Booze.
And the shorties. And they have good blends at Longleaf Swine. So that's where this is all going.
The company is buying that gold blends I've never had before.
Yeah, we're going to get shots that we're going to responsibly give away.
Yep.
This is March 21st, Longleaf Swine, Edenton, and Person.
Let's go.
There's always parking on Edenton. There's always money in the banana stand.
Very excited about that. Big thanks to Breeze Through for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Check them out. Locations across the Triangle, locations across North Carolina. As we've mentioned, the PNC Breeze Through is getting work so far this year. And as we get closer to the playoffs, it's going to continue to get more work. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do something from the Breeze Through.
Dark roast, lottery tickets, snacks, beers. I mean, is there anything else you need in your life?
Can't think of it. And when we win the lottery, we're going to have to contact Whitaker and Hammer to, since we're an LLC, it's split, right?
Yeah. I still don't understand why I buy a lottery ticket and you think you're going to get half of it when I buy it with my money.
Oh, it's your money? Then it's your money.
Yeah.
You didn't use
confusing.
You didn't use the company card for it?
No.
Because if you use the company card for it,
then it's 50.
We split it 50-50.
Other than the time that you didn't give me the $23 from the Breeze Through, sir.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's no big deal. Mm-hmm. Anyway, check them out online.
I want my $2.
Check them out. WH.lawyer. Again, that's WH.lawyer. Hanging out with us in studio is Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, Cover 3 podcast. You are the podcast aficionado. You are the pros pro. So I have a question.
Okay.
Should I just lean into the ridiculousness of Gilio getting drunk in the middle of a podcast on a Thursday?
Yes, but I do think you've got it spot on that you want to keep it to like its own corner, because like you, I air check the Saturday night instant reaction shows.
Yeah.
I air check all emergency podcasts. Like, we have shows that are just flying blind, off the rails, rocking and rolling. I don't air check a Monday or a Wednesday show because it was planned.
Sure.
You know, everything was executed at 11 a.m. It wasn't at 11:30 p.m. Eastern time after a full 15-hour workday. And so when you do the Thursday show, you lean into it, but you go back to just be like, okay, is there anything that someone's going to contact us about?
Yeah, I do worry about that.
I lean into it, but then follow up with the self check so that you can at least understand what might be coming for you in that email inbox or the DMs.
And as you know, I occasionally air check you.
Yeah, I welcome it all the time.
The last text.
What was the Fernelli had feelings? Was that about?
Let's actually get there.
All right,
let's actually get there. I said, Tom Fornelli, your co-host, finally showed some emotion. I was like, okay.
Was it about the coaches going back and forth?
And I agree with him.
Okay.
Because Bud, I love Bud.
He's very cynical on the topic.
But Bud is so cynical and also takes things like 5 steps down the line about things, right? And what the conversation was about, and Joe and I haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, but we have talked about it off air, and I wanted to bring it up. It's actually on the list of things to talk to you about
Awesome.
Today.
There we go.
Where there's the classic hand-wringing that happens in media when college coaches go pro, right? Like, who was the jabroni who left Michigan for Cleveland and then got fired like soon after?
John Beilein.
John Beilein, thank you.
Not a jabroni.
I know, I kid. He would have been if he was at NC State, if they actually worked out
Which coaching search was going to be John Beilein? Was that coming from West Virginia?
Do you want this sidetracked or no?
No.
Okay.
Let's just say
let's sidetrack it real quick so people know the contest. John Beilein could have been the NC State basketball coach, but Lee Fowler, West Virginia, and boosters couldn't agree on the buyout.
It wasn't the buyout.
What was
it?
They
thought he was a little bit too much like Herb.
Sure.
Because he was balding?
Because remember,
no, but he's a ball coach. Like, he's a scheme 'em up master for sure.
And he had a little bit too much of the Prince State offense that they did with the pit snoggle at West Virginia.
But he got him to a Final Four.
Right.
He took Michigan.
Michigan,
Chris Paul.
not West Virginia.
Right.
You had to go back to the 2006 lens.
Yeah, okay.
He had success at West Virginia. He had success at the Division II school where he won the national championship. But he was an erudite. He was learned. There was a comparison there.
Sure.
So a certain number one booster who got ran over by Harrison Ingram earlier this year wasn't.
I was concerned about this hand.
Not the check writing hand.
Wasn't exactly sold on Beilein when West Virginia came back and said, okay, or he came back, or the agent came back and said, hey, cool, but we kind of have to pay West Virginia to leave.
Yeah.
That certain booster contacted the late great Colton Tudor, right there,
Toots,
and said, hey, could you just write a story that Phil Ford is someone we're interested in? And Tudor was like, Phil Ford? State's not going to hire. Just do it. Just do me a favor.
Just do it.
I love that.
Beilein then.
I remember when that story dropped.
Beilein's camp reads the story like, we're about to close on this thing. You guys are talking to Phil Ford? What? And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Can you imagine State's roster at that time with Beilein's system? Would have been good.
It would have been.
I kind of want to retcon and go back and put Shav in that offense at State.
But the end result would have been the same.
No, you got to stop with that.
He would have gotten fed up with college and left for the pros. And remember, Joe, when Beilein left Michigan.
I'm okay with that.
Now we're going. Right?
Your retcon version of
I know,
State could never win anything with anybody.
I mean, prove me wrong.
Ever.
Prove me wrong. So the point is that when John Beilein left for the NBA, there was this great hand-wringing about what does it mean? And
because
then
he's old school and everything's going new school, and you're like, oh, he wants to get out. And he wants to get away from this.
And then we did the same thing with Kay and Jay Wright and Roy Williams, and this is bad for. Yeah, you mean the old Jay Wright? I'll take out of the equation, but you mean the old guys are finally coming to grips with the fact that it's time to go?
Sure.
I don't see where this is bad for college basketball. It's just a changing of a guard, no big deal. But we seem to be doing this with college football now.
It's college football's turn.
Where there have been some moves that have gotten people's spidey senses going. And to get back to Tom Fornelli, I agreed with him and got mad at Bud because it's like, oh, this is bad. This is terrible for college football. People don't want to put up with NIL anymore, blah, 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 blah. And Fornelli goes, look at every single one of these dudes and look at their situations. Georgia State's coach, dude, he's going to get fired. He missed out with his window. Now he's off to South Carolina,
where his family was,
where
he was going every single weekend to go see his family play athletics and not travel with the team to road games.
Jeff Hafley's our dude, but he knew where it was going at Boston College.
He also cut his teeth in the NFL.
Yes.
Like he arrived at Ohio State as the defensive coordinator because he got the co-sign from being at the Eagles and the 49ers with Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly, same situation. Dude's had multiple cracks at being a head. Cracks.
Bill Plaschke was ready to fire him.
Multiple cracks
at like November 18th.
And he was done. He was done.
And our guy, Martin Jarmond, was like, we don't have enough money to pay the buyout unless we wait until December, whatever, until the buyout goes down. And then all of a sudden they were stuck.
The point is that every single one of these situations is explainable because they're getting ahead of the Axeman or things have just run their course and it's time to do something else.
I would put Chip Kelly just in a different category. Just because I think even if he got fired from UCLA, he could still get a job at, if nowhere else, Oregon State.
As the head coach?
Yes. I think Chip Kelly still has enough cachet to get another head coaching job, even if it's not a Power 5 deal.
I don't think I think Ohio State offensive coordinator is the perfect job for Chip Kelly.
Now.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine.
He hates recruiting.
Yeah, you guys always. Yes. You guys take care of everything else. I mean, you got to remember.
Just get to scheme it up. Okay.
Chip Kelly's recruiting plan was a $25,000 check to William Lyles.
Right.
For a scouting. This is a scouting cost that just happened to come back with information that was all wrong and did not line up at all with the prospects that Willie Lyles is putting together. But $25,000 for Supreme Scouting Services.
So yeah, I don't see this as a story, but it's the off season. Like Peter King, did you read the Peter King farewell piece for the retirement announcement?
No.
He made a really, really good point about, I think we all deal with this at some point if we've been doing this job for a really long time. And he said he found himself in a situation where it was tough to muster the interest or give a damn about this time of the NFL season. Like, do I really want to just talk about the combine? Do I really want to, throw logs in the fire of the content and all this stuff? Like, it just doesn't move me anymore. We need a dead period. Like, it's okay just not talk about the NFL for 3 months. It's perfectly fine. And I do feel
that's not what they think.
That's not what they think. And I feel the same way about college football from time to time, where it's like, guys, it's okay to take a break and not look for things that aren't there.
Right.
And I think that's one of them when it comes to these coaches that are leaving their current positions. It's not because of NIL. It's not because of, kids today or whatever.
Well,
it's like, no, your ass
is
going to get fired.
We made the edit. It's NIL and transfer portal with unlimited transfers.
Sure.
Where like now it's even the one-time transfer is out the window because of the courts.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you can transfer whenever you want and you have NIL, coaches have complained always. And this is where like I don't want to trash Bud behind his back, so I want to defend him. He is talking to coaches. And he always presents, he says, coaches have always complained.
Always.
They have complained about every single change to the rules.
Yep.
It has always been something. And he's the other thing, which
while they're getting more and more money.
He's also fast forwarding down the line. He's like, guys, 3 to 5 years, not going to be a big deal. Guys, 3 to 5 years is not going to be a big deal. The problem from me trying to orchestrate this podcast, a conversation ender is not good for content. when you do this conversation ender of like 3 to 5 years, I was like, yeah, but what about right now? Yeah. Let's talk about what's important right now, because he's thinking that we are going to see a player to coach salary start to even up a little bit more. Obviously, the NFL is wildly different, but the NFL also has incredible differences in terms of the compensation for the talent, the employees, and the compensation for the coaches, the management. And so as we look into college football's future, I do think that coach salaries, like you can't just say an SEC job is $8 million per year flat. and your coaching and your assistant pool is going to be $5 million. I mean, I just think that's going to come down a little bit. Players are going to, raise a little bit, and then we'll have a little bit more balance there.
I don't think you can. I think you're right in saying that Hafley and others are taking a step ahead of the jailer. And we've had enough conversations with Jeff Hafley. He's a smart guy.
Well, you know what I mean? I call it restarting the clock.
Yeah.
You just you go and you restart the clock.
As I tell him, it's always about your next contract. But I don't think you can also dismiss on NIL. I think in particular, when you look at Boston College's situation, you look at Jeff Hafley and take away the 2-time transfer because he probably thought he struck gold in Castellanos.
Right.
Because that's the perfect time to get a quarterback. They've already transferred once. So now you got him for 3 years. So he probably thought he was set at that position, first of all. But second of all, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, is Boston College ever going to be able to compete in the NIL space? And the answer is no.
Do you want to hear something funny? They tried so hard and they kept their defensive line together going into 2023 because of NIL. They had bigger programs sniffing around those guys.
Of course.
And Hafley worked his tail off to be able to move things together, to be able to keep everyone and say, all right, this is a year. And he even said, he indicated that last year he was like, I should be able to get this team to a bowl game.
Sure.
Looking at it on paper. And then every single game was 27-24. Holy Cross, 27-24. Virginia, 27-24.
And he did screw up the quarterback situation.
Like those margins being so thin, I could see him just being like,
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the coaches will complain, then the coaches get what they want, and then they'll start to complain about what they just got.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, we saw this with Mac Brown in North Carolina last year in the Tez Walker situation. I mean, it's like, you all have been complaining about this stuff for a while. We got to put guardrails. We got to do this. We got to do that. Okay, well, fine. We're going to execute this stuff. Like, whoa.
This is unfair to the kids.
Think of the children.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now. So I'm not trying to pick on Mac Brown. I'm just giving you the latest example locally
coaches
of how that happened. They complain all the time.
Coaches complain all the time.
And what I find fascinating here going forward is not only do they complain, but they keep going back to the well with the fences that eventually get beat in the courts, right? So at some point, you say in 3 to 5 years or whatever it is, at some point, they're just going to have to start putting out contracts. There are solutions to this.
Yes.
There are solutions to this. So why won't you actually execute on those solutions rather than coming up with new inventive ways to not pay players and then find yourself either broke because the boosters don't have that money or taking yet another L in the courts?
I think this is the disconnect that Chip is talking about with Bud. When you talk to coaches, they're just, you and I have had conversations with basketball coaches.
I know.
Who are just as frustrated. Like, yes, I would love for them to be employees. Yes, I would love to have some sort of ability to know who's going to be on my roster and who's not going to be on my roster.
Yeah.
One of the coaches who had talked to one of your colleagues was complaining about like the calendar is just so screwed up in college football. Like you can't even breathe.
So
in the management of your roster in December.
December 20th is when the first round of the college football playoff is going to start, the expanded 12-team format.
Yeah.
And that was also early signing day. So imagine you were preparing to compete for a national championship while also trying to lock down, because you're competing for a national championship, the blue chip players who all commit during the early signing period and don't even wait till February anymore. So you're trying to do all those things at the same time while also doing roster retention, while also trying to figure out who's going to be jumping in the portal. Alabama lost 26 players to the transfer portal, but only 10 of them were after Nick Saban retired. They had guys in the portal before the playoffs started.
It's amazing.
Yeah, including their backup quarterback.
Yes, yeah.
I mean,
it's amazing.
But, the reason we have you on today, other than we enjoy your company, I thought the story you wrote about how the playoff is going to be shaped is, I read it initially and I was like, everyone, the net sucks, Chip. College football needs a net. And then I was reading it out.
Quad 1, quad 2 wins for college football.
But then I'm reading it, and this is actually something I feel rather passionate about. So I think it's always important to give people history.
Sure.
All right. From 1936 until 1997, we let people like me vote to who's going to be the national champion.
And coaches.
And coaches. Two separate polls. But no one sat in a room and said, hey, what did you think of Texas versus Washington? What did you think of Florida State compared to Alabama? Right? Like, we never had those conversations. They even, up until like 68, they gave away the national championship before the bowl games were played. Okay? So I think people need to understand the amount of progress that was made between 36 to 97, right? Then we get the BCS, which was a computer formula, a pure computer formula.
Don't just leave out the Bowl Alliance, sir.
Well, it didn't really accomplish much. So
I'm just saying.
The BCS 98 through 13 gives us a computer spitting out the top 2 teams.
Yeah.
And how many times was it really wonky? Off the top of my head, LSU in Saban's LSU title that wasn't really his.
04 Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, and then Auburn.
Yeah,
you know, there's like 1 or 2 years where they spit out, I think, the wrong team, Nebraska, in 01 when they played Miami. That shouldn't have been Nebraska. They had lost to Colorado by like 40 points the week before. So now you had a computer. So then I thought in 14 they had the right idea of saying, all right, we're going to a 14 playoff, and we're going to have 12 people sit in a room and talk about it. Like, that's smart. That's evolution. That's progress. But what you're writing in the story is, and as we've seen, you know, the hope and wish of, well, it'll work itself out. Well, it'll work itself out. And finally in year 10, we finally got,
It's always been so easy. So I've been writing about the playoff a lot. And, you know, I was retrofitting models when I was writing about like the 5+7 the week before. And I just kept coming back to, this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
This is going to be it's just such tougher decisions that are made. And the way that the committee does this, when they vote on every single spot one by one, and only 2 teams get put up on the screen, and they got green dots and red dots,
which they
and
manipulate.
You just go, boop, 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 and you just keep sliding them up and down, and you get these convoluted results that you look back and you're like, I don't know if you got this right. How did this team end up falling all the way down? Why is this team all the way up there? And so that's where it's so funny you mentioned that, because it does sound a little clickbaity. Like, what if the playoff had the net? Like, that was the starting point.
Yeah, right.
But as I started digging into it, I was like, no, what's important is that we evaluate all of college football. And I don't care whether it's a net rating. I don't care whatever tool you use. We just cannot look at this through a top 25 lens, because the line between 25 and 26 is so small.
And 25 and 40 is so small.
You've been trying to decide on the top 4, and that normally does work itself out. And the decisions from 5 to 12 were meaningless. So who goes to the Cotton Bowl versus who goes to the Peach? Now this is going to decide who gets to be home field advantage in the first round of the college football playoff, who is not going to get in. And so we need to have better tools, because the amount of teams that are going to be competing for 5 through 12, that group is so much larger than if you had to pick the 4 best teams, and calling just like top 25 wins is the most arbitrary crap.
And once again, this is something the OG could handle. Ovius is the vibes person, and I'm the analytical person. So they need some sort of criteria. And I've said this to Mike Kelly, our friend at South Florida, used to be with the college football playoff. I told him forever, I'm like, just use the Sagarin ratings. Like, I'm not trying to go full Vegas, guys, but I'm like, you need something that illustrates to people, okay, Michigan's strength of schedule is this, Michigan's power number is this. You have to give us a comparison point so that we can look at these people other than, as you illustrate in the article on CBS Sports. Oh, you're top 25, as we've talked about forever, Joe. Clemson, you know, the years Clemson's getting close to the top 4. Magically, Louisville and NC State are now, oh, look at that. Look who's number 23. Look who's number 21. Well, why is that? Well, it's to justify number 4.
And that's because when you get past like 18 on any ballot, it's just throw your hands up.
Yes.
I mean, I mentioned this in the piece. I fill out a ballot for the CBS Sports 134 every single Sunday. I only do one.
I don't know how you do it.
Hey, I know. I'm going to be honest. I only do 1 through 50, because my thought is like the top 60, like in power ratings, those are all your plus numbers. After you get like 65, 66, those are all your negative numbers. Like, I just want good teams.
Yeah.
So I fill out a top 50, and from 25 to 45, it is very, very little difference.
Throw darts.
Now, was it Kennesaw State that's joining?
Yeah.
Are you gonna?
Go Owls?
Is Pip Chatterson going to take over Kennesaw State and start that dynasty for college football 24, 25?
I've got some like really, I've got some ethical decisions to make.
Game's coming up. For those who don't know,
Chip is one of those guys.
Chip is that guy. How long did you rock NCAA 14?
I was into
It's a safe space, Chip.
It's fine, Chip. There's no judgment here.
there was a time when my oldest son, who will be turning 4 this summer, where I was trying to do the and he was a baby, and I was trying to do the yeah, you take a shower, I got this. And I tried to start gaming.
Oh, dude,
Go
I
play
know
with
that.
a
And
chainsaw.
nothing happened.
Of course not.
But I will say there is a close enough call during that time that it rocked me to my core, which is why I say ethical decisions that need to be made in terms of how I'm going to spend my time. I had Pip Chatterson the first, or he was just Pip Chatterson. I got him into season 2026, which is 13 years in. I got Pip Chatterson the second into 2027. And remember, my Xbox 360 sounds like a jet engine every single time it starts.
Dude, that heat sink is no joke,
and
man.
you could only play 1 or 2 games before it just blanked out and cut off. So I was really committing a lot to these dynasties, and I my most memorable runs. I ended up at Virginia. Yeah, when Virginia Tech came to offer, I was like, "Come on, Enter Sandman Lane Stadium, we got to go there." I actually had a run with Washington. I like Husky Stadium a lot. The tailgating.
Yeah. So as a coach or as a player, you were doing
you as a coach.
A coach, okay.
And that's when you're and my buddy Kevin Clark, he's been laughing about this a lot. He's like, nothing was better than when you were cutting a 92 rated junior just to make room on your roster for the 91 rated freshman who might end up being even higher down the line.
This is a game that I never actually got into, the Dynasty mode. I never did. I didn't have the time.
Right.
Or I was too interested in playing other games.
Sure.
Like you're talking about your kid and playing this video game while making sure that everything's all good. Dude, when Caleb was born, I played so much Halo 3 and Halo Reach, and he was asleep on me.
Right.
When Grand Theft Auto 4 came out with Nico, Callie was convinced that his first words were going to be F-bombs and various other things because of the voice track.
Flock of seagulls.
Right. Well, that was Vice City. But anyway, the point being that there's so much cursing going on in that game that she was like, he's going to repeat the stuff that he's hearing on this video. I'm like, he'll be fine.
He just has the sound of choppers and the sirens for when you get the 5 stars.
I don't know. Maybe if I play it for him now, it would be wait a minute. I remember it's from my childhood. It's a formative memory, a core memory.
So anyway, I don't know what the
So what are you going to do now?
I don't know what the system
down,
needs
left,
to be,
right,
but we need to evaluate more than 25 teams.
But here's the thing about the game that's going to be coming out. I feel, and this is all anecdotal, so don't get me wrong, I don't feel that this is a game that's going to be made for current college kids. This is a game that's going to be made for adults like us who still pine for the days when we had time when we were in college or just out of college that we could do this kind of thing. And this is probably going to be their first video game purchase in a long time that wasn't for their kid. And buddy, you're going to find out the hard way that gaming ain't what it used to be. I'm just going to get this disc and I'm going to pop it into the machine. No, you're going to have an 80 gig file you got to download. You got to register XYZ. And then the labyrinth of menus, I'm guessing you're going to have to go to. I don't think I'm prepared. I don't even have the system to run it because it ain't running on a Nintendo Switch.
I got laughed off the podcast when I was talking about how they were going to have players sign in copies at Best Buys, and they said, "Wait, you think they still do physical copies?" Of video games? I just didn't know. If at a minimum, it will be a nostalgia hit for people who played the first game.
Yes,
and it's somebody asked me about the cultural impact, and I think that is a minimal cultural impact.
Agree.
If, and this is a big if, I don't think it will be that way, but when I was playing NCAA Football 03 with Joey Harrington on the cover, my friends and I were introduced to college football programs and the sort of their awareness in a way that wasn't readily available in 2002. And it made us love the national college football product because we grew up in Raleigh, the triangle, home of 7-5, 8-4 football, beat your rivals, win your home games, yada, 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 which by the way, is what I think is great about college football. But this was us being like, oh, these teams in the Big Ten or the Pac-12 or the SEC, these teams have these huge stadiums and these incredible sounds.
I didn't know that was Minnesota's fight song. I thought it was Broughton's.
But wait a minute. Oh yeah. So to your point about that, it was a different time where not everything was readily available to you. Because what you're saying about college football and how it introduced you to the larger fabric of college football also applied to things like NHL 93.
Yes.
Where growing up in South Florida, yeah, you had the Florida Panthers, but if you really wanted to learn about hockey, you weren't watching it on the regional sports network at that time. You were doing it because, oh, I got this video game and I know that the Chicago Blackhawks are freaking loaded. Oh, Wayne Gretzky. Okay, got it, right? So, see, I have a nasty habit of buying the system that's going to die quick.
Dreamcast?
Yep.
Yeah. Dreamcast was awesome.
Dude, the Dreamcast was amazing.
Yeah.
So I got away from the EA Sports games and was all in on the Sega Sports, including NFL 2K. NFL 2K was
Very good
off
game.
the chart. So they took that engine and they made a college football game out of that. And it had Drew Brees on the cover. You remember this one. This is when Phillip Rivers was still at NC State too, by the way. And to your point, it was interesting to go see the models of the stadiums. I'm like, oh, okay, that's who's in this conference. Okay, that's what the stadium looks like. Oh, okay, that's massive compared to Carter Finley, all this other stuff. But now, the kids that are coming up, you have everything online. But through social media. You have gambling too.
But I don't know
so
if
you're going to know who these people are based on gambling, not because of the video game.
Yeah, I just don't know if you're going to be like curious enough. Again, I am not counting on this, but the cultural impact of the NCAA football video game coming back will be limited to nostalgia unless I see evidence of younger generations.
See, I'm with you on this.
Being like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page on this. What I'm getting at is the reason why part of that cultural impact is not going to hit for this college football game is because of all the other ways that high school and college kids today can engage with the product that you and I and Joe were never able to do so.
The youths are into gambling.
Very much.
They love stupid props.
Love a prop, ladder bets, all these other things that are going on where the video game's like, cool. Can you gamble on the video game?
I mean, you can.
I mean, you can if you want to. So I do think
Have you ever played? Were you a Super Tecmo person?
No.
He's too young for that.
Okay, well, there's a coach. There's a computer versus a computer, and there's a coach versus coach mode. We would set lines and do the computer simulation.
Did you have it? Did you have a house going at the tournament?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, not on that. This one, but no, there was a computer mode where you let it play out, and you were like, "Oh, the Niners are playing the Giants. They're favored by 6."
Well, that's one of the ways that you would get through the dynasty. By the way, is
you'd simulate.
You'd simulate games, or you would get up by enough, and you could do sim to end, and just simulate the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So you would just jump in only when you're on offense, or you're like jump in only when you knew you needed to get your quarterback 2 more touchdowns to keep him in the Heisman race. You know, like you just. I
almost feel like
it's in and out.
There's two separate games, and I know EA got into this for a while, where they did essentially coach simulators,
right?
Like, or it was a soccer game. It was just called something manager. You didn't actually play soccer in this game.
You just did transfer market and things like that.
Essentially, that's what it was. It was like playing The Sims, but for sports, or Roller Coaster Tycoon, but for sports.
My oldest was in the same way you treated NCAA. They treated NBA 2K.
I can see that.
They would simulate. You download the rosters. Like the one thing James, who is interested in doing this stuff for a living, one of his all-time great calls. Now, maybe it was obvious, but like he told me about Victor Wembanyama like 5 years ago. Like he had Wembanyama on some sort of simulator roster for like the draft class of 23, and I'm like, this was like 19, 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm like, who is this guy? He's like, oh, he's going to be the greatest player of all time. This and that. And I'm like, okay,
cool.
And I was like, but they had the rosters. You download them, you play them. But they played like they barely played. It was, you draft a team and put it all on, your dynasty mode.
I also think that the adults like us that go back and pick up this game and there's online play, we're going to learn real quick. We don't got it like we used to.
Yeah, no I'm not in that. And because part of that also, like my nostalgia hit is going to be communal. Yeah. It's going to be having 4 to 5 people over. You hit random 3 times. Those are your 3 options. Then I hit random 3 times. You got to pick the best of that. All right, let's go kick it off and see what happens.
Yeah, no. Can I come over? I want to play. I don't have a system to run.
We did at the old gig. We did some video content.
We did
at Mill Street.
It's interesting. You and I had done a video where. This is when the talk of the game coming back was really starting.
Josh will let us come over to Shady's and do something.
Oh, sure. But I busted out Bill Walsh college football for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and then the evolution of how.
Because you have whatever, a PS5. Is that the most
you should
one?
be good.
You should be good.
Yeah, we have one of those.
And you should get the players, and I guess the players are all going to get like $600 for the game.
$600 and the game.
And
But then they said, and
game's $100 basically.
And ambassadors will have other deals. And that's when I said, okay, so that means that Rocco Becht, who is the returning starting quarterback for Iowa State,
only you
is going to be at, and that's when I said he's going to be at a Best Buy in Ames. And he's not just going to get the $600, he's going to get another little side deal to be able to go out there and do a promotional
Take
thing.
selfies instead of signing copies.
Yes. So I think that there will be opportunities for players who do have marketable value.
Yeah, that makes
Drake May this year should have been able to do.
He could have been that. Yeah.
Saban on the cover.
Is he?
I don't know. It's just you want to get lost in the conversation.
You can't have a first year where you're finally paying the players and put a coach on the cover.
We were the best suggestion I heard was every Heisman winner since the game went away. You have different editions.
I can see that
for your region.
And you allow, like Phil Steele magazines with the regional covers. You get an opportunity. If your favorite player won the Heisman Trophy, they would have certainly been on the game.
Yeah.
But if I'm EA, I got to pay them, don't I?
Yes.
They got money. They got money, dude. They have money. EA's got a ton of money.
I understand that, but I think that'll be the most interesting thing to me. Always was the numbers, right? So even if you had 85 Auburn, you're like number 34. Like, I wonder who that is. He's a 99. Are they actually going to go back and pay Bo Jackson?
Well, if I understand it correctly, EA is putting it in a way that you can't necessarily do that anymore. Like the days of going online, finding the guy who's got a PS2 memory card with everything on it, that's gone. They have a way because everything's online now. Life's going to find a way, but online DRM makes it so that's going to be difficult to do.
And it does sound like they're not leaning into the legend teams.
No.
Okay. So, that's
the reason.
No, now, will there be the mascot teams?
Has to.
Buddy.
That's why 03 was such a watershed moment for me, why I bought it for my GameCube.
Did you ever play
another dead system?
Option Dash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Option Dash is only option.
Oh.
And if you could do the mascot teams and start playing Option Dash, I mean, you're just doing primary, secondary reads. I'm throwing it to Puddles the Duck and letting him hit the sideline.
This is those mascot games are pure. Let's crack open some groove wagons.
Yes.
Hang out and just cackle while we're doing these things, right?
I felt bad.
I get the bourbon.
You with the bourbon. That's what we need.
I name dropped my roommates from junior year, and I was like, we played Option Dash for hours and hours. And
you don't have time to do that anymore.
No, exactly.
Because I think that's, again, we'll close on this. That's the part that I don't think, it's going to be an awakening for a lot of us, where you're like hype about this game, and then you sit down and you realize, damn it, I do not have time.
No.
I just don't have time to do what I used to do. Heck, I experienced this with Zelda, for heaven's sake. In college, man, I would have beaten that Zelda game in a week. I'm still working on this last game, man. Tears of the Kingdom. Still. Because I just haven't had time to do it, man. Before other things take priority.
Julia mentioned earlier, like, do I have the technical capability to work on jingles for you? Yes. Do you know how long it takes to actually go through the I mean, I'm sure Brian's probably doing it like regular at nice price. Yeah. Like it's something where he's like, oh yeah, everything's set up. I can just go and start to put together some music. But I would be like, all right, I'm gonna need a weekend, and then I would come back with 3 jingles.
Yeah, I was actually texting with Brian last night, and I told him, hey man, Joe wants a longer cut of that Michael McDonald inspired intro. He's like, is the one that he likes the latest revision or the one that sounds a little woozy? I'm like, latest revision, blah, 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 blah. But then he was very proud of himself, saying, oh, by the way, I'm almost embarrassed how much I liked that metal stinger that we put with the Triangle Media occult thing. Right, it's like pure 90s stern. That little drum thing at the end was finger drums and one take, and maybe my greatest accomplishment in life. But he does it, he tinkers.
Yeah.
He's tinkering all the time.
Right.
And that's the other issue too. I love Brian, but it's like, dude, because you know me. Chip knows me. Joe, you know me. I'm like, man, I just need it. I trust you. Just give me one version. Brian can't help himself. He's like,
I know.
I heard it back and the drums are a little off. If anybody says anything about the bass being a little bit attitude, I'm like, dude, nobody's going to notice. And if everybody does notice that, I'm going to tell them to go outside and touch grass. Okay? Because it's just my guy, Brian, helping me out with some stingers, man. That's all it is.
I feel like in 2017 or 2018, you reached out and I sent you some stuff and I didn't hear back. And it was like, Chip, what you do with way too much time on your hands does not necessarily work on radio.
I don't remember this.
I mean, it was just I had from 2015 to 2019 or so, I had a lot of like studio equipment that was set up and ready to go.
Yes.
And I was always tinkering and I was always noodling.
Yes.
And that's
I just want Chip to sit at a piano and be like, E,
bang it out.
N-O, E,
Yeah,
N-O-V-A-N.
all right.
All right. Chip, get out of here, man. Thanks for hanging out. Cover 3 podcast.
It's just that simple, right?
What's
What are we doing?
Come on, what are
We'll
you doing?
when you get the game, we'll bring the groove wagon. We'll have a good old time, and the bourbon as well. We'll have a good old time.
Love it. Sounds good. Y'all be well.
I mean, we had to break out the riff after we shouted out Brian over at Nice Price. Big thanks to Chip Patterson for hanging out with us. And big thanks to Homefield for sponsoring us. Homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23. We are getting very, very close to the start of the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament. They got fire on fire on fire when it comes to their retro designs.
Maybe I should get a Creighton jacket. Oh, that's what it was. Matthew and the Greenville Tar Heel sent me a tweet. He was like, hey, we finally found something that you and UNC fans agree on. Hating Creighton. I feel like I need to lean into this. We should have some I hate Creighton shirts. Let's do it. Or you can go get some of their swag at homefieldapparel.com.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull this up. Here it is. Because we always get into weird tangents when we do the home field read for whatever it is.
It's a thing.
But yes, it is the Predator meme. Basketball fans and Gilio uniting on the hatred of Creighton basketball. There it is.
That's what I tweeted. Like, finally.
If I could change, you could change. We can all change. So use the promo code OG23 to save 15% off your order. Speaking of saving incentives, buying a new house, new construction might be the way to go if you are in the market for a new house, and Hometown Realty can help you out with that.
Yeah, go to myhtr.com. 6 locations from here to the coast, more than 250 agents. You want to get in on the new construction, you want to get ahead of the frenzy, go check them out. It's myhtr.com.
Also, big thanks to Butcher's Market tonight in the Ovius house. It's Tuesday. You know what that means? It is time to break out the Ovius family recipe.
Ancient Ovius family secret.
The charred jalapeno chicken breast to make fajitas.
Although now that I've had the maple chicken, man.
Game changer for you?
I don't know.
Game changer for you?
So many options.
It's really
too
good. Stuff. It is really good stuff. So head on to the Butcher's Market. Locations across the triangle. New location, Lake Boone Shopping Center. They got all your goodies, including prepared meals. So check out the Butcher's Market.
All right.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from the ACC Network, ESPN, he is Wes Durham, the voice of the ACC. I know you can't legally say that, but we can. You're the OG voice of the ACC. So this is the cool thing about knowing you for a long time. You had texted me and Joe about some cool event that you were doing in Greensboro that just happened to be you and Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski, and you were in the middle of the Greensboro Coliseum court. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? What is this for? And we get to find out on Wednesday night on the ACC Network. That's what that was all about. So tell us about how this kind of came about with Mike Krzyzewski.
Oh, man. Well, okay, so Gilio can go back to his journalism days on this. You know how like somebody tells you something and then it kind of leads. Remember, Joe, like you got a piece of information and that piece of information then got layered to something else and ultimately layered like 2 or 3 more times. And the next thing you know, you got a story.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened here. About 55 weeks ago, you guys know Rob Goodman, right? Who's a sports marketing executive in Greensboro, used to be in television. Rob came up to me when I was in Chapel Hill doing a game and said, hey, I need to ask you something. He said, Mac Morris, who's the old basketball coach at Page High School, he coached Danny Manning in Greensboro. Phil Weaver was at Grimsley. They run the North Carolina Coaches Association, which is mostly known throughout the state as the host of the East-West All-Star game every summer, right? And so Mac Morris had worked it out where Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams were going to come to Greensboro in July, and they were going to do a clinic at the North Carolina Coaches Association. Well, in his conversations with both Roy and Mike, it became evident that Roy and Mike didn't want to stand in front of a whiteboard and draw motion offense or zone defense or traps or whatever. They wanted to have a conversation. They thought that'd be better for the clinicians. And Mac said, well, we need somebody to do it. And Mike and Roy both suggested independently, hey, see if Wes will do it. So Mac Morris was calling me to see if I would come kind of host a conversation with Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski. Okay. And then the next thing in our second conversation, Mac said, "Hey, Wes, do you think anybody would want to televise this?" Do I think? Are you kidding? And I said, "Well, Coach, it goes a couple different ways here. One, would they be okay with it?" So Mac then made the original call back to Roy and Mike to say, "Hey, if we televise this and turn it into is that okay?" And they both agreed to it. And what ended up happening was I then talked to Aaron Katzman, who at the time was with ACC Network. I ended up talking to Jeremy Michaels, who you guys have met before, who's in programming.
Yeah.
And then it fans back into Raycom because Raycom has a production agreement with the ACC Network to do some specials and shows.
Ooh, Flores said about this already, Wes.
Well, they'll have to get over it. But anyway, the idea then kind of germinated in conversations with Rob Reichley, who's with Raycom, Jordan Smith, who ended up being the production. He was the lead producer on this event. We had a great crew, and we did a 1 hour and 28-minute visit, and it turned into a 1 hour television show that airs on Thursday night, or Wednesday night, rather.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it was fun to do, and Rob and Jordan and I and some other people got involved because when you do something like this, and you guys know this, you just can't go and the earth cooled right? You kind of got to whittle it down. And so what we decided to do was start chronologically with their careers and in coaching. Like the first question is, so when did you decide you wanted to become a coach? And we kind of went from there. And I think at the end, it's a pretty informative and enlightening hour. I think it is them agreeing on some things. And in other places, what they also do is they kind of shed light as to why they were successful. And then there's the part about the clinic where they talk about building teams and building teamwork and leadership and things like that. And they both tell really interesting stories about recruiting. And there are a couple of insights to the rivalry that I think will be really unique for people to hear how much Carolina and Duke respect one another and how the other realizes, one school realizes how important the other is to the rivalry for sure.
Yeah. I was going to say, what did you learn from Roy? I always enjoy story time with Roy.
Well, I'll save the answer for the show, but I asked Roy and Mike both, but I got a direct answer from Roy on, was there ever a guy on the other team in the Carolina Duke rivalry you wish you'd coached?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a really good answer. I got a really good answer from Roy. And then the other thing that you find from Mike Krzyzewski is the values he placed on, like, there's a question in there about what the difference is between a great team and a championship team. And I think you're going to find both of their answers really revealing as to what that separates in the end.
If you wanted them to have some animosity, I feel like I should have told you about a Nick Collison question. That's the hot button. That, when Roy got here from Kansas, they weren't at where they are now at the end of their careers.
No chance.
Animosity there, even up to the Gerald Henderson, Tyler Hansborough incident, there was some animosity there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was really after that where Mike reached a point in his career where he realized, okay, I'm finally where Dean was when I was kind of on the come up. And I think this all ties into where the ACC is headed and where we're all headed with this league and what it's going to look like in a few years. I think they took it upon themselves to be, the flag bearers and shepherds of this league. And they understood that role and how important that was. And we're seeing that now. I'm not going to denigrate the current crop of coaches by saying, what's wrong with you? You're not a Hall of Famer. What's wrong with you? You don't have 9 Final Fours. What's wrong with you? You don't have 5 national championships.
Or look, it's interesting. This past week in the aftermath of the Duke Wake game, you saw 2 instances where coaches are advocating for the league, but they're doing it in different ways. One is more modern, one is old school, right? To your point, John Shire isn't Mike Krzyzewski yet because he doesn't have any of the Final Fours. Right. He doesn't have any of the championships. He's got 1 ACC tournament championship. Awesome. That's great.
Don't make me punch you on your own podcast. He has an ACC championship. Jesus.
Sorry. Regardless, he's not there yet. Even though when
Wes
he was
would do the same. So
when he
don't
was
even.
stumping for Wake Forest, he sounded a hell of a lot like Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
All right. He just
Yes.
doesn't care. He doesn't carry the weight yet. But he
Right.
sounded just like Coach K in talking about weight, right? In the concept of, hey, they're good and they're good because they beat us. Just so you know, it's all sorts of there's layers. Right? But Forbes is interesting because if he sticks around at Wake Forest, because that's the other thing about Roy and Kay is that they stuck around their places for a really long time. If Forbes manages to stick around and Mitch Shaw keeps just writing checks, so he does.
Shout out to Mitch Shaw, by the way.
Forbes actually is built for the current age of how coaches have to talk. And I think that was great in how he went after the bracketology.
If they're
Joe, to back up,
can't Mitch Shaw throw us $50,000 like he did on tie-dye t-shirts?
Dude, that's a great question.
Saturday.
It's a great question.
When I see him a week from Saturday at the Clemson game, I'll have that conversation with him. He and I Atlanta guys, we get along. We're good. Mitt and I are good.
Tell him to just break off like 5 of it. I don't need all of it.
Just our 2023 taxes.
We're good on that front.
Let me go back to what Joe said originally about Kay and Roy.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find, and one of the things, there were a couple of objective pieces I wanted, like some musts that I wanted to get into the special, right? And one was I wanted to give Mike the runway to talk about his relationship with Dean. And I thought that was really important. And we do provide that runway. The second thing is this, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Roy and Mike grew together. I mean, they left in, sequential years, the game, right? But Roy and Mike grew. Roy came here after, what was it, Joe? 16 years, I think, at Kansas, 18 years or something at Kansas, and stayed 16 at Carolina or something like that. The idea here that Roy, and you guys uncovered this when you did your visit with him back in the radio days, right?
Mm-hmm.
You find out that there's a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation for being the basketball coach at North Carolina, the basketball coach at Duke, as it relates to Duke and Carolina. And I think they both show that. You're going to see that. But I also think, too, the maturity of their experience and their relationship is showed in the special on Wednesday night as well.
Wes Durham, ESPN, ACC Network. So this is going to be Wednesday night, 9:00.
Right. Following Duke and Louisville at Cameron. And then, so let's say 9:05, 9:07, somewhere along in there.
Yeah, nothing ever starts on time. You're actually, speaking of 9:00, you got a 9:00 tip tonight. What, Florida State?
Yep. Late night at the Tucker Center, the artist formerly known as the Leon County Civic Center.
Right.
Corey Alexander and I, Corey, you talk about a guy who's, living on the big old jet airliners. He goes from RJ Davis's 42 last night in Chapel Hill to what might be 42 combined shots between Jameer Watkins and DJ Horn tonight. I think NC State's in a spot where they're still kind of in the hunt with Clemson and these guys, with Wake Forest. And it's going to be really interesting going down the stretch. I'm not so sure, by the way, and I'll add this, I'm not so sure that if Virginia's not careful, they're the one who's the 4th seed in Washington, and Wake can move to the 3 seed. I think the Deacons' last 3 games, I know there's Clemson at the end that could have a lot of implications where it could be for the bye at the end. But I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the last 10 days of the regular season unfold for sure.
Yeah, speaking of which, you bring up RJ Davis, and we'll get out of here on this.
Ooh.
He's the ACC Player of the Year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I would, this won't be a very popular opinion on your podcast. I think that it's, and this is just a kind of a grassroots poll here, okay?
All right.
I'm believing it's RJ Davis, Reese Beekman, easy for me to say, PJ Hall, and I'm going to say right now, Kyle Filipowski, but I would say Filipowski of the guy, and Hunter Salas of Wake Forest. Filipowski's first team status, it's going to get interesting.
Yeah,
it's going to get real interesting.
I don't see it with Kyle Filipowski. Kyle Filipowski has had a weird season where he has had a quiet stat stuffing year.
I understand the voting has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I will believe that
when it happens
is not first team All ACC when he's not named first team All ACC.
Well, let me offer you this.
Okay.
He had how many?
He's had
He had how many points last night?
I did
5?
not. I didn't even look at it.
5.
All I know is that RJ Davis outscored the entire team.
But here's where I'm going with this, Gilio.
He was really
The push here on number one, Hunter Salas being as productive as he is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look, RJ Davis, player of the year, bottom line,
hands down.
Yeah.
He
the
won
Hunter Salas emergence, the consistency of PJ Hall,
those 3.
Reese
Speakman's
consistency. But here's the other one that's coming into play: Blake Henson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because Blake Henson in 2 road games went off in the 2 places that Pitt never had a chance to win. First time since 1979 on one and 1974 on the other. Blake Henson was a star.
Older guys. I love it.
And they may make the tournament.
They should.
They should. I believe it. Look, all this riffraff of a month ago of John Rothstein 2 and Joe Lunardi 3 is out the door now because, I'm looking at 4, 5, or 6, and I'm hoping it's 6 by Selection Sunday.
And your ACC Coach of the Year in the week and a half left is?
Ooh. I don't know how I can't be Forbes.
I think it's Hubert.
I think it's Hubert too, honestly. I mean,
no, it could be Hubert. I don't disagree. I think, okay, who's your Rookie of the Year?
Oh, it's got to be McCain. I think because McCain's actually
still doing freshman, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Does that count?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, freshman. We're still doing freshman.
McCain, because McCain is actually emerged. Joe and I have talked about this a bunch, and why.
I agree with that on McCain. He's emerged.
Filipowski is a funny conversation because the one who actually would scare me if I played Duke is not Filipowski, even though he is one that people go, oh, well, he's an NBA guy. Oh, he's put up, this double, blah, 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 blah. Filipowski does not scare me at all if I'm an opposing team coach. But McCain is the one that really makes that thing go here down the stretch, and why I would actually have him be the Rookie of the Year. Who would you have the Rookie of the Year?
I think there's a conversation to be had depending on the way things turn out I think all freshmen is going to be hard. I think the all freshman team is going to be really hard, by the way, because I think at one point I thought Bub Carrington was in the conversation, but Jalen Lowe has actually stolen some of the Carrington thunder with the way he's played down the stretch. But you just start looking at the players around this league who are freshmen. I mean, what about Bayandongo? Georgia Tech's not great, but Bayandongo's had a terrific year for them. So it's an interesting conversation. How about Nate George at Georgia Tech?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's top 5 in assists in the league. There's all sorts, but I think McCain's going to win Rookie of the Year. But I think the all freshman team, first team, is really going to be interesting to see because you got to make some hard decisions there.
Then we could do an all transfer team too. I think we have to introduce.
I think we need that. Right?
At some point,
the
we have
OG all transfer team.
You know what?
Maybe you all do it and create a shirt, and maybe when you're all transfer, you get the shirt with the old 8-team logo on it, which, by the way, is pretty slick, and I give you credit for dotting Blacksburg in there. Commonwealth of Virginia made you add Virginia Tech, didn't they? That's what happened. You had to add Virginia Tech because of the Attorney General of the Commonwealth.
Who would be your ACC? Who would be your ACC transfer of the year?
I mean, it's my guy from Wake Forest,
right?
Salas. It's Joe Gilio's Wake Forest team is on a burner here.
Salas, Ingram, Horn, out the gate. That's
no question.
Right. So Wes, here's what we're gonna do.
I want the NBA Jam.
We're going to bring you back when we wrap up the season and we get ready for the ACC tournament. We will unveil the OG's all transfer team. We're gonna make it a thing.
Okay. Can we do that in DC, or are we going to do it like
we'll be there in DC?
I guess we have to call it the all portal team, but
all portal team. Okay.
Oh, and then even more, you got to get the shirt out then.
Yeah, we can do that. We can draw that up real quick.
Got to do the shirt with Blacksburg on it.
A lot of faith.
Blacksburg.
You mean Grundy, Virginia.
Grundy, Virginia. That's hilarious. Galax. It's actually Galax. That's where the marker is. Hillsville, home of Frank Beamer. You could say it's Hillsville, home of Frank Beamer. There you go.
All right, Wes. Yeah. Good to catch up. Awesome with the Coach K, Roy Williams event. That'll be
forward to
on the ACC Network Wednesday. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
Always love catching up with Wes Durham. Be sure to check out that awesome interview stuff with Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski. Big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. I actually just got an email from Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. It's all about saving. If you order now, you can prepay and save. For instance, I can do a one-time payment and save a bunch of money for this upcoming season of mosquito treatment. Or I can go monthly. You can go month to month if you want, but you can save a lot of money that way.
I also say this about doing the bundle. When you call them, they respond.
Yes.
When you say, hey, I need you out here, I got like an ant in my kitchen, they're there the next day. So it's totally worth all of your time to protect your number one investment, which is your home. So check them out. It's bugsbite.com.
Speaking of your home, you want to make sure that you got the right insurance for your home, and that's where Matt Davis at State Farm can help you out. InsureGarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or call them directly. Speaking of people here, local, you can call them. You get response, 919-779-8277.
Matt and his staff over in Garner, the State Farm Insurance in Garner, do such a great job of saving you money. It's really that simple as calling them and having a conversation. It's 919-779-8277. Quite stylish.
All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions from Oliver on Threads. Took a mental health day. That's good. People should do that. Listening to Ovies and Gilio. And Ovies comparing Gilio's birdie to the dry hump equivalent of a hole in one legitimately has me dying in my kitchen. Cry face emoji. I mean, the analogy worked, right?
I mean, there was. I mean, made me feel better. How about a real life Hey Joe?
It's still satisfying, but
same end result.
Anyway,
how about a real life Hey Joe? I'm out on Fayetteville Street yesterday, parking the car, coming back up, doing some work, and Matt stops me on the corner and gives you that look like, yeah, that's him. And he comes over and says, hey, love the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. And he goes, thank you for talking about things other than football. And I said, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about ACC basketball.
We are.
We're going to talk about hockey. These are things that matter to you here in the audience. So shouts to Matt. He said he's from Jersey too. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man, it's about knowing what your audience wants rather than shoving it down their throat sometimes.
Says.
Yes, exactly. From Jim. Shout out to Jim at Wilmington. Hubert Davis really cutting down on bench playing time as we approach the tournament. 2 subs off the bench, 7-man rotation, maybe 8. Better figure out how to handle the full court press before the Duke game and the ACC tournament. Yeah, there has been some hand-wringing over rotation and things like that with Hubert Davis. You'll remember when they went on their Final Four run and they got hot in March. I mean, they didn't play anybody off the bench, right? I do think it's a matter of, I think last night in the Miami game, they were switching out Seth Trimble and Cadeau and RJ Davis. And I mean, Cadeau had some ups and downs last night. I mean, a lot of guys had ups and downs last night. We mentioned Cormac Ryan at the beginning, right? I'm not going to read too much into it. I really do think it's a game by game situation.
I was going to say,
right now.
it's matchup dependent. You know, Jalen Washington playing only 7 minutes. Yep. That's for a reason. I think Withers' minutes have been up as of late. And then Trimble, he's been great to give them a little bit of a change of pace and a defensive presence.
From Cuse and NC, more Coach K voice, please.
Again, it wasn't terrible.
It wasn't. It's been Dan Weeder, who now covers the Bears.
Yes.
Because he is from Chicago.
Yes.
He actually has the best Coach K voice. So why don't we get out of here on, I can't even do it. With a little verve here on the way out with some YouTube comments. Amazing. Florida State will want the fine sent to them if there are court storming fines. Yes, Corey, you are right. That
they want a cut of the fine.
They want a cut of that fine.
We had more viewers than you. So we deserve.
From Jay May, I'm a Duke fan who doesn't care for court storming and thought it was classless even when Duke did it. But if people want to do it, fine, just protect the players. If you don't, one of these days, these young men who just played in a high-intensity game, who is antagonized by the other team's fans on social media, who may have received threats from those fans, is going to react on instinct to thousands of fans, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. I do think that I know why this story has taken on the legs that it has. It's because it's Duke. If what happened on Saturday with Wake Forest happened against, trying to think, a non-conference opponent.
Well, like Houston's number one now. Like if Houston, somebody in the Big 12 knocked off Houston and they storm the court.
Right. So this is a Duke issue in particular because most of the time people are rushing the court on Duke. And within the ACC, as we brought up that old Brett Strelo stat, like typically when they lose a road game, 72, 73% of the time, somebody's going to rush the court on them. And the people who want to go the Jay Billis route of arrest them all, like, come on.
No.
Oh, yeah. He's like, detain them all. You'd never have this at a pro game. Right. Because that's a feature of college sports, not a bug. Okay. This is a very simple solution. And I wish the ACC would do a better job of this rather than just releasing a statement that said, and the ACC loves to release statements. And Luke DeCock and I were talking about this last night in Chapel Hill ahead of the game, in that the ACC has opportunities to lead. And for whatever reason, they'd rather send out a statement than actually come up with solutions with these situations, right? And they pay somebody literally that has solutions in the name, yet they can't come up with actual solutions, okay? I don't think Fishbait Solutions is ever going to work with us, but that's neither here nor there. What? Did I say something I shouldn't have said?
No.
Okay. Okay. You made a face. I was like, uh-oh. Wait a minute. Are they working with us?
No,
crap.
No,
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
No, we're good.
I just wanted to make sure.
We're good.
Anyway. The bottom line with this is money. NC State has
the cost
of this. NC State has in place, and shout out to Joey.
Yeah.
They know what they are doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was talking to somebody in Chapel Hill last night where they've done court stormings, and I asked them, okay, well, what happens in these situations? Well, we actually go through the protocol. We know what we're doing and everything else. And again, without having,
and Virginia does too. They rope off that area so that the players can get
out.
The exit.
Duke does the same thing.
Yeah.
Dude, they never court storm at Duke, and yet it is impossible for me to leave press row if I don't get out at the right time because they got everybody cordoned off. Okay. There's investment in place with the companies they use to handle these situations. And I think Wake Forest got caught asleep. First sellout since 2017. They probably didn't think it was going to be that crazy. Ended up being that crazy. They've learned the lesson, and what they're going to have to learn is you're going to have to invest in a better security detail for these types of situations.
If not twice a year.
Right. It's as simple as that. All the other crazy all these other crazy ideas.
Although I was there once for a Wake court storm of state.
I think it was in 2020.
No, 13.
Was 14? It 13?
13 or 14. The boys were super young.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I'm confusing my court storm.
Yeah, it's 13, I think.
Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We'll see you Wednesday.